Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Cancer July 2020 Must Knows. This month we've got the third of 3 eclipses continuing to bring massive transformation, and it is a massive wrap-up of the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle, which has been bringing you a lot of drama, possibly heartache, possibly amazing things, but in any case, a lot of notable occurrences and a lot of life-changing things that have gone on over the last 2 years since the middle of 2018. So a lot of things are coming to their fruition, coming to their close, and the chapters are ending. So that's a big piece of what's happening this month. There's 6 eclipses. There are 6 eclipses this year. Sometimes we only have 4 eclipses in a year. So seeing how many eclipses in a year kind of shows us the degree to which there's going to be a lot of busy, active transformation, changes in trajectory. Remember that eclipses are moving along a nodal path. The nodal path, it has to do with our highest expression in this lifetime. So eclipses activate the energies of us stepping into our highest destiny and our highest expression. So that's all going on right now. We've got the shaking off of the emotional energies throughout the month. You can see that we start out the month very, very strong in emotion, but at least it's a sign that's speaking your language. All of this energy is in Cancer. And as the month moves on, the Venus retrograde shadow period fades out, the Mercury retrograde shadow period fades out, the Mars retrograde pre-shadow period is going to start, but we've got this magical window between July 22nd and July 28th, where if you got to do something important, and you're going to want to do stuff because this Mars in Aries is going to be making everyone like a bull in a china shop where you're romping and bumping around and you can't wait to do things, and all this information has come in from the retrogrades and the eclipses, and yet there was the confusion and the backward, moving nature of the retrogrades. But as the month moves on, that also starts to fade. So I'm hoping that once you get to this window of July 22nd through July 28th, you'll have more clarity. You'll see what your options are, and you'll be able to use that time to take strong action. Because as we move towards Mars retrograde, it tends to make people lazy, unambitious, and have blocks to the things that they're trying to force to happen. So you've got this last window before we start to get into that cloak of Mars retrograde. And while you've got the Mars impetus flowing, and something else that's going on this month that has to do with Mars and fire energy is the first house focus. Mars rules Aries, which is that sign is going to move through between now and the beginning of 2021, which is a really positive thing in general. But for Cancer energies, it's in a square. Okay, so that means from now through the beginning of January 2021, the list of things that you know that you're supposed to be doing but not doing, you're going to be moving along the continuum of figuring out which things you actually should be doing and taking steps to get them done, or making plans for future times when you will fulfill that list. Okay, so it's going to put some pressure on you, but that's okay. But right now, this month, it's exciting because the first house focus has to do with finding your independence. It has to do with listening to and loving your body, and finding your sacred flame, like feeding your sacred flame. Altars, or like lights in a church, or, altars have been used, and for all of recorded history, to house that energy of divine, that sacred flame. And this energy of the sacred flame, your sacred flame, what makes you burn bright? All of that is coming up as a question now, along with the energy and the momentum to do something with it. There's also this topic of the mind, body, spirit connection that's coming up in a big way. The star goddess Hygeia is bringing that up. And this has to do with this beautiful blending of your logical, foundational, methodical plans, blending with your intuition and your emotions. So, and how you can do that in growing ways, how you can balance the seen and unseen in growing ways. And that's all coming up now this month. For those of you who are born earlier in the sign, so basically our June-born Cancers, or 0 to 9 degrees if you're watching for your moon or rising in Cancer. Okay, we're going to talk about what this means early. And then but I want you to know about the rest of this because I'm about to talk about this too. Middle degree Cancers are basically July 1st through the rest of the sign. July 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And then late Cancers are around July 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Okay, so those of you who are in this July born bucket, basically, you don't have that cluster in your first house yet. You see it? See the high emotion, the strong energy, the big focus. That's still back here for you all, starting at the beginning of the month. And the same thing with you, the late degrees. Okay, it's even further back for you. So what that means is all of these things I talked about with this impetus and this, this drive and, the new rebirth and the new beginning, all of that's staggered for you. And before you get to Edward, it will happen this month. Those of you at the end of the sign, you might feel this carry over into a little bit into next month. But what happens before this, rebirth, new beginning, stuff with your body, stuff with your sacred flame, figuring out your physicality and getting moving, walking, exercising, like getting your body situated and getting at home in your body, you've got to contend with all of this. Okay, this is a middle degree chart, but it's true for middle and late degree. So this has to do with basically all of the addictions and fears and challenges and karma and genetic soup and social programming and everything that has created the blocks that are interfering between you and what you want. Okay, so this is basically this line. The crossover point is your birthday, or the day that the sun crosses over your moon in Cancer or your rising in Cancer. Okay, that's like the activation point where this time of all this inner work and clearing all through the fears and all that, and then moving into the activation, the physicality, the bringing it alive, the doing something about it. That's going to be a little bit staggered for you all, okay? But since those of you in the early part of the sign, you're going to have this push, this impetus earlier in July, it might take a little bit more discipline to like push some of the really big actions more towards that window of the 22nd through the 28th, because you're going to be ready to do things, but there's still going to be some confusion or some blocks or something like that. Okay, so you might be able to take small steps, but just know if you're born, if you're June born, you might have to like take all this rumping and bumping energy that's getting stronger for you all earlier and kind of like push it into that later time period. Whereas the middle and late degree placements is going to naturally fall into that pocket for you, where it's like, okay, you got to deal with all this inner stuff. And then it's like this whole month is basically like a dog shaking off water after a bath. They don't like the heavy emotion, even though it speaks your language. It's too much. The shaking off happens. That's why dogs shake off the water, right? It's uncomfortable for them. And the whole month, every week that passes, you're shaking off more of this excess emotion, shaking off more of the things that weren't working for you. And the more work you do on figuring out what's not working for you and what you don't want, the more energy you can put into your birthday and what you do want. Okay, so all of that deliberation process, that happened for you early degree Cancers already in June, okay, because it's staggered. So the universe basically sets up this beautiful, perfect rhythm where before you have birthday wishes, or before you have this new cycle that starts where the sun moves over your moon or rising, you have this very deep look at what you don't want in order to help you fine-tune what you do want, so you can align your birthday wishes and align your intentions and align your energies as you get in that physicality where you're like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. You've got to get this stuff straight up here first, and then you can move into the physical version. It's very important to note, and I will wind up giving you a nice visual of this in my new book, Planetology, but it's the orbits of the planets actually mathematically fit into each other with a beautiful coherence. And what that tells me as I, look at this bigger picture is that the universe is benevolent and it's coherent. And even though in the mischief and the madness and the emotion and the uncertainty and all of that, it seems like it's not. It actually is. There's sacred geometry, there's sacred math, there's, something coherent and structured behind the madness. And you can see an example of this with how this rolls out, where you have the attic of your being crowded, with like all of this soup, cosmic soup. and then you work through it just in time to now you've got to take action, right? And it works out perfectly. Okay, so we've got, this month is very much about that. We've got a very long-term theme with some additional extra focus at this time of holding people accountable for things, okay? So this can look a lot of different ways. Now, if this involves a lawsuit, by the way, filing for a lawsuit, if you feel sure and everything is all kind of intuitively lined up, between the 28th, or the 22nd and the 28th, that is a pretty good window for this, because in general, instigating a lawsuit in Venus retrograde winds up costing more money and tends to sometimes go, I mean, unless it's an emergency, of course, you have to just go at your flow, but can tend to be much more expensive. Okay, so that's the Venus thing. We've got that going on, and can also, like if it's for a divorce, it can, it adds this variable for the person who's instigating it that often works against the instigator. And the same happens with Mars in retrograde. And this isn't just legal lawsuits. It's like trying to make someone accountable, how you're going to wind up doing that. Mars rules aggression. And when you try to take aggressive action towards somebody in the Mars retrograde, a lot of times it comes back on you. Okay, now there are going to be exceptions to this. You have to find your flow. Again, if something's an emergency, something has to be dealt with, you have to just do it. Don't worry about it. But if you've been thinking about doing something like this, the energy is more clear for this, whether it's having a conversation with somebody about something that's bothering you, or going into mediation or something like that. This is a really great window of July 22nd through the 28th, okay? But in general, it's, you're not going, you want to get these things done in this time frame is basically the point, okay? Because things are going to shift pretty dramatically. But this energy of holding people accountable has been a long-term thing that's going on, where quietly, silently, through aggressive action or, more complacent action, it's this people that have not done right by you, you're raising the bar, basically, okay? So Cancers are raising the bar or releasing and letting go and detaching from the whole situation, and there's, of course, any number of other ways this can look like, but just kind of look in your life to see the things that you're mad about still, and they see which things carefully that need to be addressed with a person and which things need to be addressed just inside of you. Okay, so that's a big storyline that's happening now. Okay, so we've got this last eclipse. Okay, so we know that the Cancer eclipse cycle is ending. This Capricorn eclipse is going to oppose your sign. We'll talk about that. So it's basically July 4th or 5th, depending on your time zone. Capricorn, 13 degrees, lunar. So those of you who are from around 8 degrees to 18 degrees, so that's basically the end of the early degree placement. So, it's like in this very end of June, up through like the first 8-ish days of July. And the closer you get to like July 3rd or 13 degrees, the more exact this is going to hit. And when we say it's going to hit exactly, it's not a conjunction, it's not sitting on top of it, it's hitting through opposition, okay? So it's going to happen over here, it's hitting through opposition. So the themes that have come up for everybody in the zodiac over this time and that are very present now are home, family, housing, genetics, how that is affecting your life, your genealogy, finding lost relatives or them finding you, kids, parents, anyone who's in your family unit, your inner world, home-based businesses, real estate, things going on with your homes or housing. And, of course, career and work and your place out in the world and your life purpose and what the heck you're going to do when you grow up, whenever that happens to be, if it ever happens, right? Because we're always kind of all in this perpetual feeling like, what am I going to be when I grow up, no matter how old we are, right? So that's coming up in a big way. So endings to employment, notable beginnings to employment, changes to profession, education that is related to profession changes, all of that is going to be very, very active. And if you've got to make commitments or make decisions to like enroll in courses, as the month goes on, it's pretty open to do that. You know, Mars retrograde can be totally fine for signing up for things. It's a little bit different than the Venus and Mercury. And actually even Venus is fine if you have the money to do it, and that's not a problem. You can spend whatever you want in Venus retrograde. It's only if you can't that it could be an issue. But in any case, you know, from, I'll say around the 20th on especially, like making commitments, making decisions, but you can be searching for jobs and employment and doing anything, and it may just come to you. All right, so let's look in the chart now to see where that's going to be exactly. Here's the early degree chart. It's going to be in the 7th house. So we're looking at different layers of this, okay? There's all these layers. All right, so for middle degree placements, it's going to be on the line between the 6th and 7th. And of course, late degree placements, you get it shunted here to the 6th. I have whole videos to explain what this can mean. I'm going to give you a couple of tidbits here and then refer you to where you can get even more information. So basically, every Cancer, look up my video called Eclipses in Capricorn. You can search for Annie Botticelli Eclipses in Capricorn, or you can go to my YouTube homepage and scroll all the way to the bottom. All right, and that will give you lots of information about that. Then the early and middle degree placements, you've got 7th house, and then middle and late degree placements, you've got 6th house. So for early and middle degree placements, this is going to very strongly factor in your relationships. Major endings, major beginnings, major chapter endings within relationships, and how you do relationship and your place in relationship and codependency and healing, that whole dynamic. Things are going to come up. So you might have to say goodbye to someone in your life. Could come as a surprise, could be your accountant, you know, or it could be somebody closer. But it's like this energy of a closing and ending. Excuse me. For some people, it's like the ending of a chapter in a relationship. So like, for instance, let's say you were engaged and then maybe you're getting married. Okay, so now the end of the time where you weren't married ends and now you're married and it starts out there. Or you've been married, but now you're pregnant and you're going to have a child. So now that ends like being a couple without a child situation. You see what I mean? So it's like, it can come in all of these different forms, but changes within relationships are very likely for your early and middle degree placements. And you can see more of how I've seen this manifest if you look for eclipses in Libra, Annie Botticelli eclipses in Libra. And then the middle and late degree placements, you're going to have this energy in the house of pets and animals. So notable things there, a new pet coming in. You know, you've got to follow your flow with your animal angels, but if you're looking for a long-term pet situation, more towards the end of the month, and especially in that window is great, you know, but you can trust whatever comes in, you have to follow your flow. It's, you know, they have a timing of their own in a lot of ways, right? But, you know, there's a lot of good energy around new things coming in towards the end of the month. But it could be other things. Your pet could need attention or something, you know, there could be endings there, whatever that could look like. Or it could just be a just change to your relationship. Like you get another pet, now your relationship with your other pet changes. You know, you can see all these different ways it manifests. This is also like your work house. So things involving work, your daily work, or your business can fall into here. Changes going on with management, things, you know, restructuring happening within your workplace can be the manifestation of the eclipses. And it's health, okay? So take any symptoms very seriously. Symptoms are your body talking to you, and it gets louder if you're not listening. So if something is weird, don't be as dismissive of it, especially now, you know? I mean, I always recommend getting things checked out anyway, but when you've got this going on, so especially, you know, July born friends, this is falling in the 6th house. It's really important for you to follow through with anything that comes up, and it's a good time for diagnostics, especially towards the end of the month. Although if you have to have emergency diagnostics earlier, you have to just do it then, you know. But if you're like, can have some say in it, it's not time sensitive, that window that I gave you, the 22nd through 28th, is really great for a lot of things. Changes to your diet, changes to your regimen. managing your stress. Okay, there could be a stress-related event. Or sometimes I've seen it happen when someone has an eclipse here, someone that they know dies from stress or from something that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, but the other person died from it, and then they get the lesson and it wakes them up. Okay, so I have seen it happen sometimes, like a guy at the office has a heart attack because of the stress, and you know that your stress needs to be managed, but you're not managing it, and then that person dies and they were young, and you're like, oh my gosh, that could happen to me. And so you completely change your life into one where your stress is managed more, or whatever that looks like. So, changes to your lifestyle and diet and diagnostics and medical things, that's very likely to come up. Okay, for better and worse. You could have a breakthrough where you find a solution to a long-standing health problem that you had. All right, so eclipses in Virgo you can look up, and that will give you more information about what these eclipses can look like. If you would like to have a write-up of all of the aspects of the month to note, the sweet ones, the salty ones, what you can expect from them, along with a description of what the energy of the month is like, delivered into your inbox 1 month early, then go to anniehelpsyou.com and sign up for my free email newsletter. You will also receive Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program, for free. When you do that, I give that to my email community. You can also see lots of blogs and other things on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. And if you would like to take courses, I've got a lot of free courses at my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. I'm continually working on getting more and more free courses there, and eventually the free courses will surpass the paid ones. So that's one of my missions. And you can also see my paid courses, including Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. And I'll teach you how to do anything you want to do with astrology, whether it's just fun with you and your friends and family or doing it professionally on any level. You'll learn how to do that in this course. And there are other courses there too. If you want written horoscopes by me 1 month early, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. All of these links are also in the notes underneath the video. And you'll see other blogs on that site. It's a beautiful site. Definitely check it out. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.